welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer today. Thank you guys for joining me. Happy Sunday. I hope you're doing well. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of January 5th through the 12th, 2025. And guys, things are heating up this week. We have so much Mars stuff going on. It's going to make your head spin. Make sure you click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel. That way you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out throughout the month of January. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday using tarot and astrology to try to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Boy, oh boy. I hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday. Those of you guys who are part of the Sunday crew, enjoy the first half of today. Rest, relax, unwind, and then get ready for this Mars energy to kick in later this evening. Now, don't forget to like, comment, and share on this video. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you're feeling with these energies this week and where Mars is retrograding back in your natal horoscope. I'd love to hear some of your guys' experiences and how you're navigating this emotional time. Now, here's the headlines for the week ahead. We're going to be seeing Mercury enter into the sign of Capricorn. This is great for goals, getting things done, doing business, and mentally committing to our responsibilities, even if it means letting some things go. Now, we are going to see the major headline will be Mars retrograde. Mars is dipping back into the sign of Cancer. We're going to be feeling like we have some deja vu. We're picking up some stuff that's been going on since earlier fall of 2024. We're going to do a bit of a brief recap on that actually. And if you guys hang tight to the end of the video, I will show you where Mars is retrograding in Cancer for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. But this is a big deal because as of now, at least until the 11th, we see the North Node is at 0 degrees of Aries. So there are some critical turning points this week. It requires us to reflect on the past to better decide where we're going in the future, address old wounds, frustration, anger, family issues, all that stuff, and learn how to communicate and be more assertive about where we are going. But we got to watch our tempers. Lots of Mars energy. As many of you guys know, 2025 is a Mars year. So it's interesting to see the year begin with Mars in its retrograde in Leo, opposed Pluto, trine the North Node. Oh my gosh, so much stuff is going on. But when Mars dips back into Cancer, it's going to be moving through a cardinal water sign. So it gets steamy. For many of us, it's going to feel like situations that have boiled over. We're now re-evaluating, readdressing, reworking. And at least we're going to have some support when the North Node changes signs. It's going to be going now into Pisces, and the South Node will be going into Virgo. And we're going to see some harmonious trines between Cancer and planets in Pisces, which can help us heal, forgive, forget, release, let go, and really kind of tend to some of our wounds. So if we work with this energy in a positive way, it can be a very beneficial week. However, if we let the energy use us, we can see some major moodiness, some crabbiness, and some things kind of heating up in the domestic zone. Now, like I said, the nodes are changing signs, which is a really big deal because we're going to be looking at completely different rulerships now. So with the North Node in Pisces, we're going to be keeping an eye on what's going on with Jupiter, and Jupiter is retrograde, at least until February in the sign of Gemini. So we are reviewing our beliefs, what we've learned, reviewing things we've said. Maybe there is a sense of also really reflecting on, like I said, beliefs, what we believe in. And how that's kind of connected and correlating to how we communicate, how we express ourselves, how we get around, how we travel, how we move, all of that stuff. We will also be keeping an eye on Mercury transits this year with the South Node in Virgo. So as we see the South Node go into Virgo, we're going to see the transiting Mercury aspect play out as Mercury going into Capricorn. So it's going to be in a cardinal sign, it's in a north sign, so it's going to be friendly, especially for Virgo. But this is all about timing, planning, scheduling, long distance career plans, long distance commitments, things revolving around our authority in a relationship to authority figures. So we'll be watching that throughout the month ahead. And then we will see, like I said, Mars later in the week kind of playing nicely with the North Node, playing nicely with Neptune. So that's going to definitely be a little bit more of a romantic vibe, especially with Venus in Pisces, a little bit more of doing the inner work, doing the inner reflection on what has happened in the past, what's happened when it comes to our lineage, our ancestors, things revolving around also our dreams, and a lot of opportunities for spiritual healing. Pisces rules private spaces. So I think about like saunas, spas, temples, churches, healing centers, retreat centers. So we're going to really be focusing a lot on that the next couple of months, where we can kind of get some alone time and we can kind of rest and recuperate. There is a reason why we start off 2025 and we're maybe not feeling as motivated, or maybe we're feeling like we're losing momentum. And that's because we have to kind of rest up and recharge before we're getting into the spring of this year. So if you're feeling sluggish, super emotional, worn down, tired, that is why the energy really wants us to focus on closing things out, and also cutting ties with things that are not good for us emotionally. That can be people, places, jobs, relationships, family members, all kinds of stuff. And taking some space to pause and reflect on when we remove ourselves from certain situations, where it can actually bring us some peace. So just as like a recap, with Mars retrograde in Cancer, so we saw the retrograde begin actually in Leo. It started at the beginning of December. We've seen Mars make several uncomfortable oppositions to Pluto, where we've seen some dangerous situations happening out in the world, right? We've seen, unfortunately, a lot of like deadly situations, some explosive situations. We've seen some power struggles and some issues kind of going on revolving around individuals versus the collective. Certainly, I think that this goes back to the beginning of November, when the first opposition started with Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn at a critical degree. So you might be reflecting on things that have been happening actually since right around the end of October, the beginning of November. This is why I said you guys are going to feel like you have deja vu, because some of these situations that have happened out in the world and some of the situations that have happened in your own life in the Capricorn Cancer axis of your chart is now coming back up for review. So you're going to be reviewing, how do I feel about that change? How do I feel about that conflict? How do I feel about, some stuff that has kind of gone on since that time? Basically, the themes of Mars retrograde in Cancer, because it's moving through a sign that's associated with the moon, is emotional intensity. So Cancer is a water sign. It's ruled by the moon. This is a sign that focuses on emotions, home, and family. And Mars retrograde here is intensifying our emotional responses, bringing up unresolved feelings and things that are starting to surface. So you might notice there's like anger outbursts going on. People are getting frustrated about things. There can be ugly crying. And if you're one of those few people who's not having these experiences, it may manifest as you reflecting on times where there was pain, there was conflict, there maybe was some combative situations, some fights that happened, or issues where you felt like you had to kind of stand up and defend yourself. Now, Mars in the sign is known for being passive aggressive, so it can be moody, and which, it's not really like Mars. Mars is usually direct and linear. This is a planet that's associated with combat and action and aggression. So as it moves through the sign of Cancer, it's not very strong. It leads to passive aggressive tendencies rather than direct confrontation. So we will see that situations maybe in the past where we haven't confronted someone or something, or maybe we backed down from a situation, now it's coming back up for review. I do feel like there is this theme that comes up with Mars in the sign revolving around protection and defense. So there's this heightened urge to protect oneself, maybe one's family, your emotional territory, and this can also lead to an oversensitive kind of demeanor. We can be highly, sensitive to other people's responses or their criticisms, and we can be very defensive. So be mindful that that's kind of in the sky. Use this time, though, to reevaluate security. Okay, so look at the Cancer area of your chart. You're reevaluating your emotional security around that topic in your life. This period is intentionally pushing for a deeper look at what provides emotional security, what provides physical security, and it leads to significant changes in our home and family dynamics. So the effects of the retrograde is going to create some energy fluctuations. I always say Mars is like putting our foot on the gas pedal, or it's like, something getting shot out of a cannon, or, something kind of accelerating with speed, a rocket heating up. So the retrograde is actually going to kind of make us feel like we're slowing down and we're kind of getting pulled back in one direction before we're shot in another. When it's in Cancer, because this is not typical Mars energy, it does result in us feeling a little bit more lethargic, or there is some kind of frustration when we're trying to act or when we're trying to express our emotions, and things might feel like they're not kind of going in the direction we want, or there can be some setbacks or delays. Watch for conflicts in the home. Definitely this is a placement that creates more arguments or tension in domestic settings because emotional issues are coming to light. But thankfully, throughout this transit, we're going to see some trines to Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node, which can help us dissolve some of these things. And we can actually learn a lot by taking a step back, calming down, going for a walk, counting to 10, meditating, and finding ways to diffuse some of this energy and learn not to embody it. Learn not to let anger, hate, fear, frustration kind of consume us. We need self-reflection and time for introspection, so that way we can really look at our emotions that are coming up and really ask ourselves, okay, what do I need? Have I been, asserting myself out in the world the right way? Have I been having good boundaries when it comes to my emotional space and making those changes throughout the retrograde? It is possible that health issues can come up from this retrograde. Stress-related health issues could surface, especially connected to digestion and the stomach, because Cancer is linked to this particular, body part. We can also see that there can be some challenges or issues revolving around memory, because we're seeing Mars kind of connecting with the retrograde and Neptune. So there could be old dreams that are kind of coming up for us and things that are resurfacing where we've had past traumas or past conflicts or fight or even past life issues. Obviously, all these planets in Pisces can represent things that stem back to previous lifetimes if you believe in that and reincarnation. The dream space is going to be very active, and I can tell you guys that because the North Node will be in Pisces, so our subconscious is going to be heightened. We're also going to really benefit, I think, from learning about, dream interpretation, writing things down, what's kind of coming up for us in dreams or even in a meditative state. And Venus is also going to be moving through this sign. So it's giving us the opportunity to actually heal things and realize and recognize that it's actually okay to process it and let some of these things go. So that's kind of like the long and short of the retrograde. Definitely think back. This particular period of where Mars is right now is very strongly connected to October 5th through November 3rd. So put on your thinking caps, go back and look through what's kind of happened during that time period, that whole kind of month long, where Mars was already in shadow. So it was going through the degrees, which it would retrograde back through, bringing some of this stuff back up. And also it was just prior to Mars getting ready to go into opposition with Pluto and Capricorn and then move into Leo. So some stuff might have happened back then that now you're finally going to be addressing. The positive, okay, is that you will see Mars when it's in Cancer trining the North Node. It's actually happening today. It's happening in a fire sign. So we're already feeling the benefits of this. I feel like it's more positive right now because Mars is in a fire sign and it's trining the North Node in a fire sign. And when we look at the connection between the Sun and Mars, the Sun is the dispositor of Mars. It's basically saying now we're willing to take responsibility. Now we're willing to make changes. Now we're willing to kind of, rise to the occasion. Even though they're in signs that don't really kind of correlate, they in conjunct or quincunx each other, they're actually supporting each other throughout their passage in these signs. And Mars in the sign of Leo right now, which is bold, courageous, creative, romantic, is inspiring us on an individual level to really go after what we want, to go after what we love, to focus on happiness and creativity, even in the face of this opposition to Pluto the last week or so, where there's been some rising tension going on with the collective. It's trying to get you to not get kind of thrown off by that and focus on how you can find ways to diffuse some of this energy and really make lemonade, right? But when it drops into Pisces and Mars is in Cancer, then it's saying, okay, now we're talking about Pisces themes. So we're going to be talking about releasing, dissolving, healing, forgiving, being more empathic, being more sensitive. Now it can mean that we're more sensitive to what's going on out in the world. Pisces is going to be the collective energies. But I do think it can also mean that there is this wave of people being more sensitive. I mean, North Node in Pisces, we got a lot of feminine energy that's going to be kind of setting up over the next couple of weeks and months until we see planets fully move into Aries and stay there. So it can mean that we feel like we're more creative, we might feel more inspired. But the darker side of Pisces is we can feel more lonely, we can feel more isolated, we can feel a lot more emotionally sensitive and kind of feel like we want to kind of retreat and kind of stay in bed and keep to ourselves. So everybody will respond to this energy a little bit differently. Maybe if you have a lot of water in your chart, you know how to navigate this a little bit better. If you have some earth in your chart, you know it's going to be friendly for you. This is a little bit more challenging, I think, for my air and fire people. So if those are your primary elements in your natal chart, you know, you're just going to kind of feel like you're getting hit with this wave of emotion. But the key here is to observe. With Pisces energy, we want to take a step back and go, okay, you know, is it time for this to end? Has this been, you know, heavy for too long? And also recognizing that we're shifting out of North Node in Aries, which is who am I? What am I doing? What about me? It's a very me first mentality. And Mars is retrograding out of a fire sign too into a water sign. So we're going to go, now actually it's about the collective, what the world is going through. The North Node's going to sit at the late degrees of Pisces. So we're going to talk about this wave of emotional changes and challenges that are coming. Lots of emphasis on water. You're going to see lots of things revolving around storms, flooding, migration, immigration, you know, all these like Pisces themes. So then it becomes more, everybody is kind of experiencing this emotionally together, and we're going to see lots of things changing as planets are hitting the late degrees of Pisces between now and the spring. I like that it's going to trine Neptune. We're going to see Mars trining Neptune as well this week, and I feel like this can kind of really activate that inner warrior. I feel like Mars is the warrior. It is the soldier. It is about, you know, taking action and feeling motivated and being passionate about something. So as it trines Neptune, while it's retrograde, we can feel like, you know what, I'm really passionate about cleaning out the fridge. I'm really passionate about organizing our home. I'm really passionate about getting to the root cause emotionally of this issue. And I'm going to tell you guys, water, water, water. Stay hydrated. You know, if you have saunas and baths and stuff, use them. If you have access to bodies of water or pools or hot tubs or anything like that, use it. And this can also be a really great time for, you know, cleansing and cleaning your home and spiritually protecting your home and doing offerings and doing some kind of sacred ritual things where you're actually asking the universe to kind of help you heal this, to help you release it. So I really like working with the element of water, whether that's putting out a vase of flowers somewhere, or maybe you're, you know, putting out water under, you know, some of the moons, or maybe you're just going to be spending some time in nature, just kind of floating in a pool or floating in a lake, whatever. You know, that can be really beneficial for helping kind of release some of this stuff. Pisces is also salt water. This is more about beaches and things revolving around the ocean. So even just throwing a handful of sea salt into your, you know, weekly bath or your soak routine can cause a world of difference in emotionally kind of releasing all of like the stickies and the stuff that can kind of be out there with everybody in their feelings with all these planets in Pisces. I also really like that Venus will come into a trine with Mars as well. And I feel like that can be wonderful for getting on the right path with our relationships. That can be about smoothing things over, you know, healing things, forgiving people, no longer carrying some kind of, you know, grudge, and finally like letting things go. And this is the turning point, guys. You're going to see right towards the end of January, as Venus is coming into shadow, we're going to see relationships get tested. Venus will meet with Saturn first before she enters into shadow. So it's almost like it's coming to a point where we're going to be saying to ourselves, just how far can we push some of these relationship issues? How far can we push some of these financial issues? Is it possible that we can commit more seriously to our relationships, to our you know, relationships to ourselves, to our self-love? Can we be selfless and help those who are in need and make the necessary sacrifices on a personal level to help others? These are all things that I think we're going to be marinating on. I feel like when Mars and Venus are in harmonious aspect to each other, it definitely brings more romance, more passion kind of up for us. And I would just say, don't lose yourself with all these planets in Pisces. Don't overly idealize things. You know, be mindful that we can kind of have our our rose-colored glasses on, but Venus's connection with Saturn is definitely going to kind of stabilize that and help us see things from a very serious, mature, I think, perspective, and create the necessary boundaries that need to kind of happen in order to have healthier, happier relationships with others, and also just better relationship to ourselves, better health, and better finances. So we'll see that kind of coming up also. The challenges is that with any retrograde, things slow down, right? Things slow down. When Mars was in Cancer, it felt like it was like very difficult getting things done, at least me personally. To me, it felt more like there were so many emotions and things coming up that it was kind of putting at least me in a situation where I felt like I was just kind of like paralyzed. I was like, I can't get anything done while I'm feeling this way, and I have to work through these feelings before I can do something. So if you had some of those experiences throughout the last couple of months, now that Mars is retrograde, maybe now we're healing and we're clearing some of that stuff up so we can feel like we can kind of get in motion again. Yes, Mars will eventually trine Venus, it'll trine Saturn, so it's going to give us a little bit of support, but things do slow down. And you guys are going to see that even in spite of having some support from planets in Pisces, we are going to start to see some oppositions that's going to be happening from the Sun. We're going to see some oppositions from Mercury in Capricorn as well that will oppose Mars. So not only are things slowing down, but we're going to kind of bring back this theme of this back and forth that we have seen between the Cancer area of our chart and the Capricorn area of our chart. It's going to be different for everybody, but I will tell you that Cancer is about that home, domestic, family, type of vibe. It's mother energy. It's energy connected to nurturing, connected to our private lives and anything connected to like real estate in our home country. Versus Capricorn energy, which is more kind of like father, authority figure, bosses, leaders, people out in the world, things revolving around our careers and our responsibility and our identity. They will be in conflict. So it's bringing up that same opposition that we saw right at the end of October, beginning of November. It's coming up for reevaluation yet again. Even though Mars and Pluto aren't going to be in the same opposition by sign, Mercury, which is now the South Node ruler, will oppose Mars. And I think that that's going to be a very big deal. I think this is when people are going to be making some big decisions about what their goals are, what direction they're going with when it comes to maybe parenting, when it comes to their career, when it comes to their identity out in the world, and how that's actually reflecting back the need to kind of make the necessary changes on the home front. For some people, it's been, I am retiring. I'm finally going to focus on being home with my family. For others, it's, I'm changing jobs and I'm looking for a job at another location. What I find interesting is that Saturn is going to be the dispositor of some of these oppositions between Mercury and the Sun with Mars in Cancer. And so as that's happening, we're watching Venus hit Saturn. We're going to watch Saturn head towards a conjunction with Neptune. We're going to watch Saturn head towards a conjunction with the North Node. That'll be playing out towards the beginning of the year. What does that mean? That we have to kind of see some things through. We have to see some things through to the end. We have to complete some things. We have to let some things go with love. Sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do, especially if we really love someone or something, is set it free. We're going to learn that through the Venus retrograde. That's just like, you know what, this might seem like I'm abandoning ship, but I got to let this thing go because otherwise it's going to be all consuming. So it's a process that's going to be unfolding over time. I feel like with those oppositions, they can be challenging. And I think that with Mars moving, through what's going to be a lunar sign, we're going to see a lot of moodiness and a lot of emotional reactions along the way. So we will be reviewing through the retrograde Cancer themes. Home protection, okay? So when I say that, it can be like Second Amendment stuff that's coming up. It could be things revolving around home security systems. It could be just having, neighborhood watches that are going up and people who are more observant and aware when there could be some ruckus in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, with Mars retrograde, we see more domestic abuse issues. We see more issues revolving around, breaking and entering. We see more issues with dog bites. We see more issues where there is conflict or anger or frustration with family. That does happen. But where can we use this in a positive way? Mars retrograde, trining Venus, Saturn, and Neptune throughout its retrograde. Home projects, right? I think it can be really wonderful for people to be like, I'm creating a meditation corner in my home. You know, you've got a closet or something that's cluttered. You decide to open it up and, you know, put a little lamp in there. You put a little spot that you can kind of sit and meditate. Maybe you put some visual things in there, some things that project. Maybe you have a sound machine, you know, and then boom, your home has been reworked to create a space where you can kind of have peace. It might mean that people are worshiping and practicing spirituality at home more. It might mean that people are going, you know what, you know, we're going to be going back to church as a family again, if that is your path, if that's what you want to do. Some people are also going to be saying, you know what, we want to create a, you know, spiritual space in our home where we're paying homage to our deities or to our ancestors. Maybe you're clearing off, you know, like a spot above your fireplace where you're putting pictures of your, you know, relatives, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your, you know, beloved pets. You're putting some crystals and some candles and something where you have an altar space. That's very Pisces. Where you're able to kind of connect with your deities, your angels, your ancestors, your people, so you feel like they have a spot in your home and they're helping you navigate through some of the changes that might be happening with you and your family. Really good use of the energy. For others, it's going to be quite literal. You know, it's going to be, I'm really considering moving to another country. I'm considering relocating to a foreign land in a place I haven't been before. It could mean that you're going to be doing long, you know, involved home projects. Private places is Pisces. So it's literally like your attic, your closets, under the bed maybe, you know, drawers and things you haven't gone through. Like a good use of this energy the next 2 months is go through these spaces, clear them out, downsize, declutter them. Pisces is things of, you know, for people in need. Donate stuff. Go and donate all that extra stuff that you have that you don't need. That's how I'm going to use the energy. I feel like maybe in doing that, not only is it going to make me feel better and a little bit less cluttered, but also knowing that some of these things are going to be going to people who could use it a lot more than, you know, me, and it might just be sitting in a closet. So Pisces can be shoes, by the way. It can also be, with Saturn being there, stuff that's going to help people with warmer, you know, clothing if they're cold. We're going to have major cold fronts that are going to be coming through the United States. And I would just tell everybody with some of these transits, be very careful, because Mars retrograde in your 4th house could quite literally be, I think we're going to see some people who are going to have some issues with their heat and their electricity. Uranus goes direct at the end of this month. So we are going to see some electrical things happening. And look, Venus is the dispositor of Uranus. So Venus is going through Pisces, where it's going to come into conjunction with Saturn, and it's reverberating off of Uranus. So we're going to see that, you know, major cold fronts can cause some spikes in, you know, material costs and food distribution, in what products we can get, in what's being grown, in prices of food and other things. Do not get caught with your pants down if you live in some of these places where there is going to be major cold weather. I'm telling you right now, you need to have food. You need to have something that could either be backup energy, or you need to have firewood or a means of being able to keep your house warm, keep your family warm, cook your food, because I have a strong intuition that we're going to see some places that are going to be in major temperatures that are going to be unusual for that area. And they may have some issues in being able to, you know, take care of their homes and their families. So I only tell you guys this stuff because I see it coming. I do think that what else we're going to be looking at, like I said, is home projects. So, you know, it could be things involving kitchen remodels, reflooring, things where you're going and redoing foundations, things where you're going and reworking stuff kind of connected to water and, you know, maybe even like pipes. Scorpio is connected to Mars, so it could be about, you know, pipes freezing. So if you're in an area where you have to cover pipes and stuff, or you're having to replace pipes, or pipes might freeze, just pay close attention, because you can see some issues with that. But it could also be good things for people who have been wanting to remodel their home, or they're like, hey, I've got a whole list of things I want to do. I'm going to do it myself, right? Mars. You can do that, and it could feel like very zen. So maybe you're just kind of zoning out and you're listening to astrology videos, you know, and you're putting up wallpaper and you're replacing tile and you're painting walls. And that could be a really wonderful way of being able to use the energy of just kind of being in the zone. I do think that the past is going to come up in regards to family karma. I think we're going to see lots of stuff revolving around where ancestors are trying to get involved, and they're trying to send us messages intuitively, or through readings, or through dreams, or through visions, to try to give us direction in how to navigate where we're living or how we're feeling, or help us heal and kind of like clear some of this stuff out of our subconscious. So do pay attention to what's coming up for you guys in dreams, and watch for the family issues, family drama. Watch also for home damage. So if you guys think back to what was happening when Mars was kind of retrograding through Cancer, we were in the wake of all of the flooding that was going on here in the South in the United States. We had massive issues with people who had nothing. I mean, the whole communities were swept away. It was right around the time of the eclipse in Pisces, and then it was like, boom, we saw this major flooding event. And, you know, Mars was kind of like in aspect at the time. So we're now reviewing, okay, what's happened with these communities? Can they be rebuilt? How can we help them? How can we go and give them the support that they need? How can we go and help families feel like they can not just thrive, but they can, you know, not just survive, but thrive? I think all of that stuff from some of like the home damage is going to come up. Maybe we're seeing a lot more people going back and forth with people revolving around, you know, claims because of weather and issues with their home as well. So yeah, that North Node in Pisces now for the next 18 months, and especially the next couple of months, because the North Node's going to hit Neptune, which is going to magnify, North Node magnifies, especially in Pisces, themes revolving around flooding, things revolving around emotions and the subconscious, and storms and dreams and all these other Pisces themes. With this all being connected to Jupiter and Jupiter's retrograde, as soon as Jupiter goes direct in February, this energy is going to get bigger. And then you'll see retrogrades that are going to go through here. So I don't think we've seen even the beginning of some of the, you know, flooding issues, some of the issues with storms, and also just all of the mental health issues, unfortunately, that are kind of going on in the world, where people are really genuinely kind of concerned and afraid for what they're hearing in the news, what they're hearing in the media, right? Gemini. And also all of the things that they're not hearing, because Jupiter's retrograde square all of this, all of the information that may be bits and pieces of things, or things that may not be, you know, the total truth, or there can be stuff that's omitted and it's not giving the complete picture, and it's hard for people to decipher or be able to determine fact from fiction, right? Squares between Pisces and Gemini. So with that being said, this week, I'm gonna take you guys through the transits, and we're gonna look at what's going on day by day. So this will be for January 5th through the 12th, 2025. If you guys are watching on the 5th, happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. How are you guys vibing right now with the moon in conjunction to Saturn and Neptune? This is always one that I watch every month. I'm like, weird stuff happens every single time. Here's the thing. So, you know, yesterday, actually the last 2 days, the moon-Venus conjunction has been happening. Did you guys see that conjunction? Where I'm living in Texas, it was super cloudy, but I saw a lot of the photos on X. It was really cool to see like that, like little sliver of a moon, and then Venus was so bright. It was really pretty. Not a bad conjunction. The last 2 days of Venus conjunct the moon. Now Venus in her exaltation in Pisces, super dreamy, really romantic, very creative. Not bad, but Venus is now heading towards a conjunction with Saturn. You will see that pretty soon. And as we wake up this morning, the moon is kind of like besieged between Saturn, which restricts and limits, and Neptune, which deals with dreams, idealizations, but also isolation, you know, bad habits and stuff like that. So I would imagine some of you guys are not watching this at 7 a.m. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine that there's a lot of people who are like, I just could not get out of bed this morning. I was exhausted. I'm so tired. It's pouring raining where I am right now, you know, or I'm just feeling like really out of it and kind of dazed, and you know, I'm sluggish, or I'm just barely getting up and getting my coffee. If that's how you feel, don't worry about it. It's fine. The moon is definitely bringing this up. Saturn, which wants us to kind of commit to something, the moon, which wants us to feel something, and Neptune, which wants us to kind of like desert or kind of isolate away. This is a very sluggish morning. Take your time. There's no need to rush. Maybe if you can this morning, get some time to be in water, to you know, go for a walk, maybe to meditate, to do something that's just going to be peaceful, spiritual, and reflective. If you can do that and get a little sleep also, I think you'll be good. So then what's going to happen is we're going to see right after the moon as you're waking up, right after the moon is kind of coming out of the conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, it's sextiling Uranus. So we feel changes in the air. We're like, oh, something's coming. And write your dreams down if you guys have really prominent dreams last night. As of Sunday morning, your dreams might have some kind of significant meaning. I would look them up. I've been having a lot of them. I had a dream a couple days ago that was like so symbolic and specific. And I was like, how does that correlate? And then like as of yesterday, I was like, oh, now I know. So be busting out those dream dictionaries. They can be really helpful. What you're going to see is the moon is going to pass Neptune. I'm Central Time, so right around midday, and then the moon is going to go into Aries. Use this morning, before that moon ingress in Aries happens, use this morning to observe, okay? Because with the moon, conjunct Neptune, conjunct Saturn, the North Node is going to hit these degrees later in the week, and then we're going to be dealing with Saturn in those degrees and the North Node in those degrees for March and April. So it's pretty much going to show you like, oh, this is what we're dealing with. We're in this like collective fog, this collective confusion. And I've been telling you guys, and I posted about it on X, I was like, guys, Neptune is fog. He would use fog to distort things and confuse people. And there would be blankets of fog over the sea, and there would be storms and like all of this stuff. So that's why I think we're seeing this. The North Node is so close to Neptune, it's picking up on that energy. And as it kind of dances with the North Node and Saturn, we're going to see more of that over the next couple of months. So this is not unusual for the astrology. But observe the shift that happens from this morning to right around mid-afternoon. In mid-afternoon, 2 o'clock Central Time, so that's going to be like right around noon on Pacific and right around 3 p.m. Eastern, then the moon is going to move into Aries. And it'll hit 0 degrees of Aries. And I've said to you guys time and time again, 0 degrees of Aries is a world axis point. This is one of the most potent degrees in astrology. So, you know, right now, at least until the 11th, we have the North Node there. So there's a lot of global events going on. We're seeing things, and that's reverberating off of Mars. Well, it's been more global, you know, events revolving around cease of wars, changes maybe with military, change in direction with leadership, and there's been some drama, right? The opposition of Pluto. But the second that the moon comes into conjunction with the North Node, it means we need to listen to our instincts. We need to listen to what our instincts are telling us. Where do we have to say, you know what, I'm going for a run, or I'm going to go and hang out by myself for a little bit, or I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go work on a project. There's going to be some major vibe shift that will happen later today. So if you're like laying around like a sloth with your pajamas and your slippers and you're just drinking your tea and your coffee and just catching up on astro videos or watching movies or not doing anything, that's fine. You're supposed to be doing that until like we get to the afternoon and it's like, it's go time. And that moon's going to trine Mars, which means we're going to feel action-oriented, incentivized. We want to go and create something. We want to go and hang out with a romantic partner. We want to go and, you know, do a hobby, something like that. And now when the moon is in Aries and it's touching on the North Node, fateful events happen. Okay, so we've got 0, 0, 0, 0. You know, all these zeros are setting up. New energy is coming in. And this is going to be the same degree which Saturn and Neptune are going to be at. So today is an amazing example. It's going to show you quite literally how we're going to move from the energies in Pisces in the spring into moving into the energies of Aries when all of these planets go into Aries. And it's going to be like somebody, you know, like shoots something out of a cannon, or a light turns on, or suddenly somebody strikes a match and you're like, okay, now. Aries is always really good about intuitively knowing when to act. So you're going to feel like taking some kind of action basically this afternoon. And it's trining Mars. So I love that energy between the two. You know, Mars is still coming out of the opposition with Pluto. So maybe you're feeling the effects of the Mars-Pluto energy again. You know, maybe you're kind of feeling like you're being pressured to meet some kind of timeline or to kind of handle a situation. And you're like, you know what, now is the time, I'm going to do it. Lean into that moon North Node trine Mars. We will see Mercury coming into square with Neptune. So, you know, this is today and tomorrow, not the best communication days, although I'm more focused on Mars. But, you know, be mindful that we can be kind of confused. We can kind of get lost. There can be a difficulty in deciphering or determining facts and information. It's not going to be a great time for travel. We could see some travel delays or some setbacks or some confusion with communication. Some breakdown in communication, and there can be some things that are not very honest, unfortunately. You know, Mercury does not do well in Sagittarius. It can sometimes embellish stories, or it can tell tall tales, or there can be, you know, things that are kind of blown out of proportion. And when that's coming down on Neptune, there is a lot of conspiracy going on. There's a lot of like, I heard this, and this is what's going on, and that's what's going on. And it's kind of messed up, you know, Mercury coming out of its retrograde shadow. So in theory, you would think things are getting better, but it kind of, the finale is kind of like the square to Neptune. That's like, I don't know what to believe in. I'm not sure. But when it gets into Capricorn, things are going to be a lot easier. I think it's going to be a lot more clear, and we're going to be a lot more goal-oriented, and we're going to be a lot more assertive and be able to make up our mind. So maybe make any, you know, hold back on making any serious decisions quite yet. Let's wait until we get some better aspects with Mercury. Watch for these communication issues, weather advisories, and misunderstandings. They are rampant basically all day today. All right, so this is now going to take us into Monday the 6th. And we wake up in the morning. Here is the Mercury square Neptune. So watch out for that false news, misleading information, things that are going to be manipulated and distorted. With Moon conjunct the North Node in Aries and Chiron and Mars retrograde, people are going to be very quick to react to things, very quick to jump to conclusions, very quick to get emotionally reactionary. Why? Mars is back at 29. And 29 is a critical degree. This is a degree that's associated with Leo. And when Mars is in Cancer, now we're looking at the moon. Before we were looking at the sun. Now we're looking at the moon. So what's going on Monday? Mutual reception between the moon and Mars. We've got the moon in a Mars sign. We've got Mars in a moon sign. And we are going to see some kind of building squares that are going to be happening as we're kind of coming into the last square before we come into the full moon on the 13th. So Mars at 29, think back to what was happening, you know, with Mars being at these degrees around October 5th through November the 3rd. Specifically, the end of October, beginning of November was right when it was starting to come into opposition with Pluto. So it was right around the US election. What do I think? I think individuals, because the moon is associated with Mars and Mars is associated with the moon, individuals are going to be more angry, more upset, more frustrated with home dynamics, with, you know, things that are going on in their country, with some kind of turbulence when it comes to, you know, your family. I speak from an American perspective because that's where I live. I know we've got people all over the world, but I can just tell you that I see it. I definitely see it when these aspects kind of set up. There was a lot of tension building up to the election. We had the election, things kind of calmed down a little bit. And obviously, if you've heard anything about the news that's going on in the United States, it feels like a very intense time right now. It almost feels like there's a blitz of things that are going on in different cities all over our country. And this is also going back and forth over some really critical points in the United States charts, making oppositions to our Pluto. It's making oppositions also to our moon. So it is bringing up lots of conflict, and there's also lots of crime and corruption that's coming up during this time. What you need to know is to keep your emotions and your reactions in check. It's okay to feel, it's not okay to lash out. And so if you're noticing that meltdowns are happening, lashing out is happening, things like that are coming up, you need to be really in tune with the Aries part of your chart. You need to be really in tune with, okay, this is happening. This is how you feel. What are you going to do about it? Because the emotions are coming up for a reason. It's trying to tell you something. And you will see the moon as it continues to go through Aries. It's then going to start coming into a square with the sun. Okay, so this is the first quarter square right here, where, you know, we feel a little discombobulated. There are things that we have to be doing, work we have to get done, stuff we have to take responsibility for. And, you know, we may not be responding well to timelines. We may not be responding well to people putting pressure on us, on authority. You know, we may not be seeing eye to eye with a boss. There's some kind of tension, and it's showing this tension that's coming between Capricorn and Aries, which is going to lead to what could potentially be like the blow-up situation when we have the full moon in Cancer. As the moon continues to move through Aries throughout the day, especially into the PM hours, after you see the square, you're then going to see the moon come into conjunction with Chiron. in the evening, and it's at a 19. So it's the healing that we need to do within ourselves, within the relationship with ourselves, our own personal wounds, our own issues. Aries, and this is ruled by Mars. Mars is at 29. Critically, I think that, you know, we've got some critical turning points going on with relationships, home, family, and also our healing. And then you're going to see on the 6th, Mercury is coming out of the square with Neptune. And then we have got the moon at least in a sextile to Jupiter. So it's really pushing us to like say, okay, you know, if something's bothering you, talk about it, write it down, journal, go for a walk, let off some steam, something like that to be able to better deal with these feelings. And then it's going to take us into Tuesday the 7th. And on the 7th, we wake up and the moon is still in Aries. Now the moon's coming into a square with Mars. So see how many Mars aspects the moon is kind of making, or how many squares, which is a Mars energy. You know, it's in a square to the sun, then it's going to be conjunct Chiron, you know, then it's in a square to Mars. I mean, it's showing you this building tension all the way until we get to the full moon in Cancer, which will be conjunct Mars. If you guys haven't seen that video, check it out. So, you know, we're going to see the moon coming through here. It looks like it's going to dip into Taurus in the afternoon. And usually the moon really likes being in Taurus. I mean, I think that once we get past in the PM hours, the moon square Pluto, which does bring up some emotional intensity, especially revolving around financial matters and, you know, our goals or friends and values, or issues revolving around, you know, community and, you know, values, will be fine. Venus is actually in a nice aspect. So I think that that's going to kind of save the day a little bit. Maybe we see a little pressure around dinner time with moon ingress square Pluto, and then it should ease up a little bit. And like I said, Venus is in Pisces. Okay, so really with moon square Pluto, it's bringing up money, value, resources, and how the collective is like responding to things. And even though Venus is well in Pisces, it's exalted here, it's still going to be touching on people going, well, I'm not feeling the love, or I'm not feeling valued, or I'm recognizing that there is a lack, or that I need more. And people can be feeling, you know, the crunch after the holiday season of the money they've spent, you know, the money they've spent on traveling, the, you know, pressure revolving around relationships and giving and exchange, and that they're kind of really feeling the effects of that this week. Now, the moon will continue on through Taurus. This is going to be into the evening. And on the 8th, which is Wednesday, is when we're going to see Mercury enter into Capricorn. So those of you guys who are Mercury ruled, my Geminis, my Virgos, you know, your chart ruler is on the move. So be mindful that this is going to create quite a change for you. I'm going to do a video on that this week, so we'll talk about it. But now Mercury, the mind, business, travel, communication, is moving through a Saturn-based sign. So I'm looking at Saturn. Okay, so Saturn's in Pisces. So this is, I think the positive is we're going to see people go, you know what, somebody didn't do this. I'm going to step up and do it. Somebody didn't, you know, do the laundry. I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to start the laundry. Somebody didn't, you know, pull their weight in a work project. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to step up and I'm going to take care of it. So there is this willingness to make sacrifices because it's the right thing to do, to step up and do the responsible thing, to be the bigger person. And I think it's also going to really help us tap into our goals, our dreams, and our visions when it comes to our long-term career kind of motivations. What's tricky about this is that, you know, you do have Mercury that squares the north and the south node happening this day. So you're going to feel on the 8th that there is a need to make a concrete decision, to commit to something, to commit to a long-term goal, to address something in a mature manner, to make the maybe the moral you know, decision, to have integrity, to take the higher road, whatever, and commit to it. Commit your mind to something on Wednesday. Now, the north and the south node are the moon connected to the moon. And if we look at what's happening with the moon in Taurus, much better aspects on Wednesday. Wednesday's a better day. Yes, you're going to feel like you need to speak up. You need to say something. You need to agree to something, sign something, plan something. But you have the moon in a trine slightly with Mercury and also in a trine with the sun by the end of the day. So Wednesday is a good day. Moon is also sextile Venus. So if you want to make some decisions, about love, relationships, beauty, finances. Not a bad day to do it. You're really kind of focusing on long-term goals and, how to grow your resources, how to bring more money in, how to have better self-esteem. There could be lots of good financial and business things that can kind of be happening on Wednesday. I think this day is going to be one of the easier days, even in spite of Mars. I do think it's going to be easier. All right, so we will see that's pretty much everything. The moon will sextile Saturn and Venus. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's going to be Wednesday in a nutshell. You're going to see right towards the end of the day, the moon is coming into a trine with the sun. And I think that we're going to kind of look at Wednesday and we're going to go, wow, today was a really productive day. I got a lot of stuff done. I'm glad that I initiated that project. I'm glad I made that phone call. I had that meeting. It was very productive. And I think we're going to be pleased with some of the results that we get from Wednesday. Now, this is going to take us into Thursday the 9th. You're going to see in the morning, the moon is crossing Uranus. So this is probably going to be one of those mornings where we wake up to a surprise, or we wake up to something that's accelerating or something that's changing. Shocks and surprises happen with Uranus. So watch for, maybe being a little bit more intuitively kind of connected. Maybe you have a feeling that something's going to happen and it does. Definitely, this can be implying market changes revolving around, money, banking systems, institutions. Still looking at Venus, and Venus is still in a good aspect, still in a good sign. Nothing really negative is going on, so I'm not really too worried about it, but it can cause some emotional upsets with the moon conjunct Uranus very early in the morning. Other than that, we will see on the 9th, the moon will then sextile on her way out of Taurus, Neptune. So we're kind of feeling a little bit emotionally connected, sensitive, creative, and compassionate. And then she's going to leave Taurus in the PM hours and she's going to go into Gemini. So right around, not early evening, but just, 6, 8, or 9 p.m., depending on what time zone you're in, the moon will then trine Pluto. So look, when the moon's in Gemini, we are chatty, we're communicative, we have things to say. And when the moon is trine Pluto in these signs, I feel like this is when there's like a lot of news and information breaking on the internet. That's what I've observed. Obviously, when the moon's in Gemini, we're looking at Mercury. Mercury's coming out of the square with the north and south node. Mercury's at a 2, so some big decisions, discussions, maybe talking about government spending, government expenses, job spending, job numbers, talking about money and salaries and budgets. That kind of stuff can be coming up with those degrees. So the moon off the bat is going to quincunx and in conjunct Mercury. So it means that there's going to be a changing circumstances, or we're changing our mind, or there's a public change of opinion that is not connecting or correlating with what the mainstream narrative is. Quite literally, I think moon, coming into conjunction with Jupiter trining Pluto is the internet's going to have one opinion about something that's going on in the world. Or a difference of opinion that does not align or connect with the official, narrative of something. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think I've seen a little bit of that already, but I think we're going to see some more of that happening on Thursday night. And then we will see going into Friday. We wake up in the morning and the moon is coming into conjunction with Jupiter. So we're going to see some mutable madness stuff going on. So first thing that's going to happen is moon squares Venus. So we might be more emotional and more sensitive to communication and people's words and what people have said, or maybe their lack of. Venus, in Pisces is kind of retreating. And moon conjunct Jupiter and Gemini, people are like, why haven't they gotten back to me? Why haven't they said anything? Why aren't they talking to me? And we can be a little bit more sensitive to the fact that there's been some changes in communication dynamics and relationships. I think that moon Jupiter overall is pretty optimistic and positive. However, this is not really connecting and correlating with where, Mercury is. Mercury's in Capricorn, which is more bold, serious, assertive, kind of direct. And we will see the moon conjunct Jupiter and square Saturn. So that means that there's going to be this ramping up of trying to communicate and sharing information right around the late PM hours, late afternoon hours. And then we're going to see the moon come in for a square with Saturn. So it's almost like there's going to be this maybe breaking news, breaking storylines, things revolving around, social media, things revolving around cars, communication, laws. Jupiter could be about laws. And the square to Saturn is, I think you're going to see a lot of people who are going to have a lot of opinions, and they're going to be very outspoken about some things that's going on with leadership. And Saturn in Pisces, you know, could be lack of transparency, lack of direction, lack of leadership, and people becoming more vocal about that. You will also see on Friday that these two transits, primarily the moon, but Jupiter too, are kind of in conjuncting or quincunxing the sun. So that's also saying the same thing, being vocal, communicating, speaking out against, you know, the direction or some kind of like an agenda. And I have seen this materialize more on like people talking negatively about being like, oh, you know, certain news hosts, news anchors, you know, even people who are speaking out in regards to censorship matters and things that have been happening with Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk is changing all the algorithms right now revolving around what people talk about. If they're criticizing or speaking negatively of some people, he's changed all of his settings of who can respond to him and who can engage with him, if they're verified or if they're not verified. So this is very interesting because it's very like Jupiter square Saturn. It's like, you know, wanting to condemn like negativity and like lashing out at people and like wanting to change things behind the scenes as to what people can and cannot say and what you can read. So I find that very interesting because it kind of checks out with the astrology. So is there going to be a lot of feedback? Are we going to see lots of changes going on with that platform because there's been some tweaks maybe to the algorithm? I don't know. But I just think Jupiter's positivity and Saturn is generally pretty negative. So are we going to see a boost in some content, or are we going to see some stuff that's going to kind of fall behind? Maybe, yeah. You know, I'm neutral on the matter. I feel like free speech should be free speech in general. But it'll be interesting to see how making some of these changes might actually help some creators. All right, so on the topic of the 10th, that's pretty much it. Nothing is really happening here. Now we've got Mars at 28. And as we take this into the 11th, so this will now be Saturday, this is the day that the North and the South nodes are going to change. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting day. Doesn't mean something will happen, but I feel like with the moon going into Cancer, square its own nodes at the last minute, maybe. For Saturday, you're going to see the moon in Gemini. It's going to sextile Chiron, so communicating and expressing our wounds and, you know, writing things down, journaling, you know, talking about our feelings can be helpful. This is when we see the moon and the sun in conjunct or quincunx at an 11, so a lot more of like not understanding, comprehending, agreeing maybe with where we're going with leadership or career related matters, or, you know, professional matters, or dealing with bosses or authority figures. That can definitely come up. And we will see the moon as it's going into the late degrees of Gemini come into a square with Neptune. So it's going to be right here. And it's right when the nodes change signs. So look at that. So the nodes are going to change signs in the PM, and the moon is going to come into a square with the North node and with Neptune. And there's some changing circumstance here. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be putting an emphasis on media. And then look at this, ruled by Mercury. Mercury's in Capricorn. Is there going to be some big public government announcement that's going to happen on the 11th? Is there going to be some White House, you know, administration document that's released? Is there going to be some big statement? I wonder. You know, this is connected to Mercury, this is connected to Mercury, and it's up here squaring the nodes still. Even though it's coming out of the square, it's still squaring it. Okay, so the nodes are now in Pisces and in Virgo, which means we have to look at what's going on with Jupiter. Jupiter's down here, coming into a square with Venus and coming out of the square with Saturn. And we look at Mercury. Mercury's up here in Capricorn. Not really doing anything. You'll see a Moon-Mercury opposition. All right, so let's take a look at what else is going to happen here on the 11th. So the nodes have changed signs. The moon's going to enter Cancer in the PM. And if you guys want to know more about the North node in Pisces, the South node in Virgo, go and check out my nodal video I did on that. It's on my channel. You can also go, I still have my New Year's Day stuff available if you guys want to watch the replay for sale on my website. Around the 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, The moon's going to hit 29 degrees and square the north and the south node. So that's going to be critical as well. In terms of communication and changing of circumstances and news and media. And then we're going to see the moon go into Cancer. So as we're waking up on Sunday the 12th, I'm watching the moon come into opposition with Mercury, personally. Because this makes me feel like it's going to be a difficult time focusing on our home, our emotions, our family, you know, our stability, our security, you know, rehashing the past, feeling safe and secure. And that's at odds with communication when it comes to leadership, authority figures, bosses, like parents. Like this is a time where emotionally we're very sensitive with the moon in Cancer. And with the North Node in Capricorn, it's like, well, this is the way that it has to go. Somebody is outside of ourselves is communicating or expressing something that we feel like, oh, you know, we may not align with, or there could be comments and messages or, you know, conversations or things that are being said publicly about safety and security. Safety and security. Remember, Saturn is connected to Mercury. Mercury's important. What's happening with Saturn? Saturn's in the same sign as the North Node and Neptune. Venus is approaching. I think there's going to be public announcements about safety and security, and recommending that some people be more mindful of when they're out and about, or more mindful in certain areas or certain communities. I think you're going to hear some comments and stuff that are going to be made about that personally. Now South Node in Virgo is going to be talking about like, you know, people who come to help, you know, people who offer support. So this could be healthcare, this could be public services. So I think of like paramedics, cops, people who wear uniforms is usually Capricorn. So we're going to be hearing a lot more revolving around, you know, people who I think are showing up and they're there to provide some kind of public support of some kind. So I'm curious to see if that kind of comes up in some way. But in your own life, the moon in opposition to Mercury means that something's going to be pressing, that's going to be timely, or you have this impression that you have to communicate in a timely manner or respond in a timely manner, or that you have to really focus on your responsibilities, and it's not going to resonate very well with your emotions, and you may not feel ready to communicate or talk about something. And then we're also going to see the moon then come into better aspects. So in terms of next Sunday, when the moon starts trining Venus, so you get to like later in the afternoon, much easier aspects. The moon's now going to trine Venus, which means we can be more, you know, caring, compassionate, sensitive, feel more in touch, more divine. We can feel more connected to our higher selves. We can feel more safe and secure. And then we're going to see the moon come into a trine with Saturn. And at the same time that that's happening late on Sunday night, look at what Mars is doing now. Mars is now at 27, trining Neptune. So we're taking action or reevaluating what actions we're taking, reevaluating how we can communicate, think about the past, think about home and family, and we can release things retrograde with love, with compassion, with security, with sensitivity. So it's allowing us to heal. So we really start to get into the healing recovery vibes, kind of like on Sunday. I think it's really interesting how many aspects we're going to see at the beginning of the week that's very Mars oriented. And then by the time we get to the end of the week, it's going to be much more about kind of like Jupiter energies releasing and kind of clearing. And this is the build up to the full moon, right? So the last time we saw Mars trine Neptune in like this aspect, it was right at the end of October. So I want you to think about what happened at the end of October. What was going on? What actions were going on? How were we responding to things emotionally? What was kind of going on in our homes or our family life? And maybe we didn't stand up for something. Maybe we didn't speak up about something. Maybe we didn't take the necessary actions. Now we're reflecting on that, trying to figure out how to be a little bit more assertive and how to do it in a kind, compassionate way. So if you look at this, this is the build up to what will then be the full moon right here in Cancer. So literally the next day, so this will be Monday, we have a full moon in Cancer, and I'll probably talk about it in next week's astro weather, but that's pretty heated. Moon conjunct Mars can be sexy, passionate, it can be really fierce and romantic, and there can be lots of passion and pleasure, but unfortunately, you know, we are seeing the opposition also to the sun. So it's going to be almost like there's going to be, you know, authority figures in our lives feeling like they're telling us what to do. And I speak about this in generality because I look at it from the Aries rising kind of horoscope, 0 degrees, but this is literally authority figures, leaders, bosses, parents, you know, government related people being like, you know, stay in your home, Moon, Mars, you know, you're under attack. I mean, like that kind of stuff, or it's not safe. And then people are going to be like, you know, and I would just say, like, don't lean into that. Lean into the trines. Lean into the trine with North Node and Neptune. Realize and recognize that part of what is maybe playing out collectively is to create fear and paranoia. Maybe it's meant to distort you. Maybe it's meant to overwhelm you. Maybe it's meant to make you feel exhausted. So what can you do, right? What can you do when you kind of feel like the world is like crazy? I mean, first of all, the world is a stage right now. That's what Mars retrograde in Leo, I think, is all about. A lot of things that we're seeing is being implemented to, create hysteria. But I think that really leading up to the full moon, it's like learning not to have a knee-jerk reaction, learning not to, and reflect on where maybe we've done this in the past, where we've just assumed and been led to believe that we should just accept things at, you know, face value, and that we should become enraged and angry, and we should react very quickly and blame other countries and blame other people for things. Maybe we should be quickly moving to pump up, or kind of stoke the flames of war, or to pass legislation that could be, you know, incentivizing people to react to things. I mean, there's going to be a lot of reactionary energies that are going to be happening going into next week. And I just encourage you guys to take a step back, realize that not everything is what it seems now with the North Node in Pisces, especially as Neptune and the North Node are aligning. And before we react, we have to think about the consequences, because we will have major consequences after this. After this full moon, and this is going into next week, but whatever. After this full moon, we're going to see, then the sun is going to come into opposition with Pluto. So that's going to be around the 15th, 16th. And then Mercury is going to come into, in opposition with Pluto. The sun is going to come into opposition with Mars right here. Okay. On the 15th. And then we're going to see Mercury come into an opposition with Mars. This will be on the 23rd, right? A lot of Capricorn is about leadership, but it's also connected to Saturn. So it's about borders. And so it's been interesting to see how some countries are like changing direction with their border strategy, and like how they're navigating immigration or deportation. You know, Mexico is very much connected to Capricorn. So I've been interested to see in the news recently this week that the president of Mexico has said that they will support this incoming president, Trump, and help him with deportations. And they will even help use Mexico as a hub for deporting people in America to their home countries, even if they're not from Mexico. Maybe that's part of it, is kind of like the retrograde that's like, okay, we will, you know, go back and correct and, you know, help and assist at the process. Especially relating to borders, right? Maybe. But I think that for some people, they're going to see, you know, the Mercury and the sun in opposition to Mars as something forceful, something that's demanding, something that's mean, something that's challenging, and learning to kind of say, okay, you know, am I going to suck it up, or am I going to, you know, to show them what I've got? So it's going to depend on your own personal chart. Mars will come back to these same degrees again, and you will see that happen here. So we're going to see some of the opposition energy very similar to what we're experiencing now in April. And so it'll go back through these critical degrees kind of mid-April, and then it will come back into an opposition with Pluto. So it's almost like there's going to be a process that's going to start with some of these critical degrees of Mars in Cancer, and then we're going to go through the returning home, you know, reevaluating our homeland security, reevaluating our borders, reevaluating things when it comes to our past, our family, our ancestral heritage. And then it's gonna, we're gonna start to see the results of that come April with the last and final Mars-Pluto opposition. Wild stuff, guys. The astrology this year is just insane. It's so crazy. So I'm really curious to see what happens. As always, like, leave me your comments. I'm always curious to see what you guys have going on throughout the week. I will show you guys now where this is going to be taking place in your chart, where Mars retrograde in Cancer is, give you a little feedback. And there is a video on this, so if you guys want more information on this transit, just search that on my channel. I'm a Western astrologer, so I practice Western astrology. I do not practice Vedic. And I'm going to be looking at this from the whole sign perspective. So if you're a Placidus user, you need to know where 29, about 17 to 29 degrees of Cancer is in your chart. That's where the Mars retrograde is going to be. You may have to listen to more than one sign. But because it's retrograding back into a sign at 29 degrees, you can totally listen to whole sign. Listen to your ascendant sign first. This is going to tell you which house Mars is retrograding back into. And listen to your sun sign and your moon sign as well, especially because this isn't a lunar sign. I think I would listen to all three. This is going to impact those of you guys who have Cancer placements 17 to 29 degrees most. Equally, those of you guys ruled by Mars. So my Aries and my Scorpio risings and my Cancer risings, you guys are the ones who are really feeling the heat of this. And I'm going to start with Aries and Aries rising first. So for you, Aries, Mars is ruling your chart. Obviously, it is retrograding from your 5th back into the 4th. So it's like it's got to go back into the 4th house and deal with something before it makes a major change or goes in a new direction. So obviously the 4th house deals with your home and your family and your roots. So a lot of what I've been talking about applies to you. Really the goal here and where you want to be focusing, for navigating this time while Mars is retrograde in your 4th between now and February is you really want to address family dynamics or home issues, and you want to do it with empathy, okay? Consider what a home means to you emotionally, and this might be a good time for decluttering or reorganizing your living space as a metaphor for emotional clearing. Trust me when I tell you, clearing out those closets, under the bed, getting the dust bunnies, clearing out, the attic, having a yard sale, whatever, fixing things in the home, it will feel therapeutic for you. It will help you in a very big way. All right, so we have got now Taurus and Taurus rising. You guys are going to experience Mars retrograde. It's happening now in your 3rd house, so it'll be here between now and February as it's going retrograde in Cancer. So, Mars retrograde in the 3rd house, your focus is going to be on communication, your local environment, siblings, maybe learning. It could also be about dealing with vehicles, but it is turning retrograde. So it means you're reevaluating these themes. And Mars is connected to your house of relationships and also your subconscious. So for Taurus and Taurus risings, a lot of this can be about how you're communicating. How are you speaking to your spouse? How are you speaking to your partners? How are you speaking to your clients? How are you communicating and talking to your neighbors? What's your relationship like with your siblings? Is there stuff that's coming out that represents inner frustration that you need to be reevaluating? Are you rethinking or reworking something about a car, traveling, or learning? Are you getting frustrated maybe with a sibling or with a partner? And is that coming out through communication? Maybe. Be cautious with your communications. It's really important for you to be thinking before you speak to avoid any misunderstandings, and use this time to deepen, your connection with your family, even with your community. I really recommend journaling to help you throughout this process with your emotions, going for a walk, going for a jog. It could also be really good for you to consider working with a therapist or connecting with an astrologer, because Mars is connected to your 7th house, and you can review some of these concerns, frustrations, fears, and you can have somebody help you navigate it during this time. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Mars's retrograde back into the sign of Cancer. It'll be taking place in your 2nd house. So obviously for you guys, this is a house that's very connected to your personal finances, your values, your self-worth, and your spending power. So as Mars retrogrades through your 2nd house, you're reevaluating what security truly means to you. I really recommend avoid impulse spending, avoid any sudden impulsive decisions that are driven by emotion, and instead focus on building emotional security, which might lead to more stable financial habits. Usually a retrograde in the 2nd house means that we're scaling back. So spending less, consuming less, buying less. And Mars is connected to your 6th house. So it could be health food, supplements, cutting back on expensive trainers, or, expenses revolving around health, or even revolving around pets, or unexpected expenses revolving around health and pets. And also it's connected to your goals. So maybe you're kind of saying to yourself, you know what, maybe if I, opt to get a more affordable, gym membership, I can save some money. Or maybe I'm going to be, working out from home. Or maybe I'm going to be, going and joining like a club rather than doing something that's going to be private and working with a trainer. Maybe I'm going to work out with friends, shopping less, spending less, saving more. That's basically what's going to be coming up for you guys. And I think that it can be really beneficial for you because actually as planets are going through your 8th house, you're focusing more on saving, paying off debt, investing, things like that. So you're kind of thinking about your financial goals differently. And you can feel a little bit more of like a critical turning point with your finances during this transit. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's going on, Cancer? How you guys doing? Take a breath. Mars retrograde back in the 1st house. So, Mars started its retrograde for you, Cancer, in Leo, and now it's in your 1st house. So the good news is that Mars does well in the 1st house. Even if it doesn't do well in Cancer, this is like a really important time for you to be reevaluating and looking at your personal identity and your self-expression. I would use this time, because it's retrograde, for self-reflection rather than outward action, and work on understanding your emotional needs and how they shape your identity. Practice patience with yourself, as you might feel a little less assertive than usual, or you might feel a little bit more emotional and emotionally reactive than usual. You're going to have somebody else pushing your buttons. I don't know if it's going to be a partner. I don't know if it's going to be a business partner, client, spouse, something, but you're going to see some planets oppose Mars, and it's going to bring up whether or not you're feeling like you have control over your own life, whether or not you're being assertive enough, whether or not you're getting your needs met. And you can kind of feel like people are like really kind of, calling you out on stuff, or being more demanding or being more combative, and you're being asked to pause and reflect before you react. So maybe there's going to be a series of things that are going to happen that's going to put things in perspective and make you go, you know what, nobody's going to change this except for me. I'm the person who's going to have to make the change when it comes to how I work, how I do relationships, how I manage my feelings. I do think that with Mars's connection to your 5th house, it could be about parenting, how you navigate dating, how you navigate, being self-employed, or any kind of like creative hobby. So if you've been thinking about starting your own business or something like that, you're reflecting on that before you kind of get into the spring when this is over and the eclipses are done in your 10th house. So for some of you guys, actually time away from clients or an existing job, or even relationships, or reevaluating relationships, it's going to give you the time and space to think about, what do I want to do? What do I love? How do I want to show up in relationships? How do I want to show up in my career? And maybe you need some space from other people to kind of get that clarity. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You guys are happy to have Mars out of your sign for now? What's up, Leo? So Mars is retrograde. It's back in Cancer. It's going to be there until February. It's going through your 12th house of the subconscious, private life, kind of healing, things revolving around isolation, foreign lands, spirituality, solitude, endings, all that stuff. So while Mars is retrograde here, this is a time to retreat into your inner world and engage in activities to support spiritual or emotional healing. This could be like meditation. It could be therapy. It could be karmic past life regression. It could be working with a therapist, working with an astrologer, working with a hypnotherapist, any of that stuff. Ancestral work, shamanic dancing is like a huge theme I see with Mars in the 12th house. And it can be a time where I feel like you're finally letting go of past emotional baggage, and your dreams might be very vivid. So pay attention to them for your insights. I do think a lot of this is connected to your 4th house. So it's a lot of what changes are you getting ready to make at home, or do you feel like you need to be away from home, or you're trying to get out of your home, or you're trying to travel, you don't want to come back home. And it can also be connected to your ancestors and relatives and people kind of being around you spiritually, coming and visiting you in dreams. And your 9th house. So what do you believe about home? What do you believe about family? How is that getting reworked right now while Mars is retrograde in your 12th house? You might feel like you're taking an extended vacation. You might feel like you're kind of changing directions with where you want to be living in the future, and you're thinking about it before you make any of those moves. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to experience Mars retrograde back in Cancer in your natal 11th house. This is bringing up the themes revolving around friendships, groups, goals, and aspirations. So you're coming out of, You're hiding, kind of cocoon, your phase that Mars has been in your 12th house. Now it's in your 11th house. You might feel like you're actually coming back online, reconnecting with your audience, reconnecting with your friends, socializing again. But definitely evaluating the emotional quality of your friendships and asking yourself, are they supportive? This period can bring up issues in group dynamics. I would encourage you to address them with compassion and reflect on your long-term goals and how they align with your emotional well-being. Reunions, reconnections, maybe even smoothing things over if there's been some tension in a friendship, that can definitely happen. Mars is about change, transformation, and personal change. It also has connections to communication. So you might be feeling like, you know what, I'm ready to communicate and connect. Let's smooth it over. Or maybe if you've taken a hiatus or a break from social media or creating content, you're coming back online and you've changed the direction and how you're going to be creating and what you kind of want to share with other people. I do feel like the only thing you need to watch for is like some tension. There will be a Mercury-Mars opposition, so it can be about what you create and then what you bring to the collective. And you can feel like people can be a little bit more critical maybe of your romantic relationships, your kids, your hobbies, your creative process. So that Mars-Mercury opposition you might want to watch for down the road, but that's not happening this week. So you're good for right now. All right, so we got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You're going to be experiencing Mars's retrograde back into Cancer in your natal 10th house. All right, Libra, so for you guys, the focus of the 10th house is career, public reputation, and authority. All right, so the key here in navigating this retrograde between now and February is going to be career progress and really reevaluating where you want to go. Truth be told, the Mars retrograde could or should make you feel a little stalled. So this is a time where you're like reevaluating or reassessing your career path, and you're doing it from an emotional standpoint. The question is how does your job fulfill or challenge your emotional needs? You're working on your public image with empathy for yourself. Some of you guys are reevaluating some frustrating situations you had with jobs, with bosses, some setbacks, some delays maybe that you had with your career. Maybe it's about reconnecting and readjusting and thinking about where it is that you would like to go. But Mars is connected to money. So some of you guys might be like, you know what, I'm actually taking a hiatus, or I'm taking a break, or I'm taking a pay cut, or I'm going to be working less, but that's okay. It's going to be better for me emotionally. And it's also connected to relationships. So where you might be saying, I'm rethinking who I'm working with. I'm rethinking my relationships with others, with clients, if you have a client-based business, with services and what you sell. If you're in a committed relationship, a lot of Libras and Libra risings are reevaluating whether or not they want to stay in those relationships, if they want to stay married, or if they want to separate, and if that's a part of the storyline of how that's impacting your reputation or even your career, and also your money, right? But Libra, Venus, your chart ruler, now it's in the 6th. So really the focus is health, healing, daily routine. And those of you guys who have not been working, you might actually see a change in going back to work or working for a new company or having a new schedule. That's going to be kind of emerging in the spring. So right now it's about thinking about how do you want to work, how do you want to feel, and how can you do work that feels like it's healthy for you, mind, body, and spirit, and who you want to work with as well. Good luck. All right, we've got my Scorpios and Scorpio rising. So you guys are experiencing Mars retrograde. It is retrograding back into Cancer in your 9th house. This is important for you, Scorpio. You're ruled by Mars. You've had some tension with Mars in opposition to Pluto, where there's definitely been something popping off about changes in direction with your work and the pressure that's kind of going on your home zone or with your family or with the storyline in regards to your private life. Now at least it's moving into a sign that's a fellow sister fire sign. So, water sign. So between now and February, Mars may be making trines to some of your Scorpio placements. If you have anything between like 29 and 17 degrees of Scorpio, it's going to be supporting you in that way. It's also going to be making aspects to your 5th house. So Scorpio actually stands to gain a lot emotionally, a lot of emotional clarity, a lot of emotional healing, a lot of resolving the past throughout this Mars retrograde. Now for you, Scorpio, Mars is retrograding in the 9th house. So this is like higher education, certifications, training, travel, philosophy, college, publishing. These things are slowing down. So as Mars retrogrades here, you might want to kind of look at this and go, okay, what am I learning about slowing down? What am I learning about the process of being patient? What am I learning about changing direction with your beliefs and how your beliefs are really kind of shaped by your emotions? Yeah, travel plans can get affected. You know, flights can get pushed back. You can see that there can be delays in vacations. You can see there's a change in direction maybe with training or certification, or returning and reconnecting with teachers, reconnecting with gurus, reconnecting with mentors. I've seen some Scorpio and Scorpio rising say, well, I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to, you know, go and get a certification. And they are getting a little flustered, a little frustrated with how long it's taking, the process of being able to start that, or the process of being able to kind of complete that. I feel like I would use this time to grow spiritually where you are and consider the emotional journey rather than the physical one. So it's a lot of like, well, how am I feeling about the fact that I'm about to graduate? Or how am I feeling about the fact that I'm going through this new training, or that I'm redirecting something about my belief system? And Mars isn't just you, it's also connected to your 6th house. So, you know, your belief about your health, your belief about your daily routine, your habits, and like how your emotions are very much intertwined with these things. I think this is an important retrograde for you because you are going to see Mars opposed Pluto one more time. So the change in your direction will impact something about your home and your family. Equally, you're going to have Saturn, which is very much connected to Mars. Saturn and Neptune will go into Aries. So you're going to feel like this next year, you're going to have periods where you just have to put your head down and you have to just work on your health, work on your routine, you know, work on your daily boundaries. And you need to be doing this in a way where there's a lot less stress. And I think maybe part of the Mars retrograde is figuring out how you can get into the type of work or a type of job that's a lot less stressful. Okay. All right. So let's move on to Sag and Sag rising. What's up, Sag? You're going to be doing this Mars retrograde back in the sign of Cancer in your natal 8th house. Good news is Mars does well in the 8th house, okay? This is a house that's about, you know, transformation, joint resources, intimacy, healing, death, and rebirth. So Mars knows how to do this house, but this is a very sensitive area for you because it's going through a sign that in conjuncts or quincunx your sign, and it's very financial. The 8th house is about debts, loans, mortgages, transformation of your home, psychological changes, therapy. So it is sensitive, and, you know, quick psychological, physical, or emotional healing can happen in this house. That's the good news that I have for you. You can make miraculous turnarounds if you're working with a therapist, if you're healing old wounds, if you're addressing some of the shadow monsters in the closet. It can be really beneficial for you. But also, Mars is connected to your 12th house of the subconscious, which is why I think addressing fears or issues, or, you know, working with a therapist can be really beneficial. It's also connected to your 5th house of love affairs, children, creativity, and romance. So if there is some old childhood wounds that we need to address, if there's some old wounds relating to your love life, to broken hearts, to changes with romantic relationships, with fears revolving around intimacy, now is a good time to deal with it. You can find that during this time with Mars retrograde, you know, it's a time for deep psychological work. And I think if you have opportunities for self-reflection, I would take it. I would be looking at how emotional patterns affect your intimate relationships or your financial partnerships, and embrace changes and opportunity for growth. Mars retrograde in the 8th can slow down a process of transformation. So if you're wanting to get an insurance claim, you know, paid so you can get a surgery, if you're wanting to get a mortgage, if you're wanting to get a loan, these things can take longer, and it can make you feel a little bit more emotionally insecure. Obviously, the oppositions to planets in your 2nd house are very much about the money that I have versus the money I owe, or the lack of that's coming from a partner, a business partner, clients, things like that. So it's very financial for you guys. Just be mindful, like, don't be taking any unnecessary risks with borrowing or lending, with investments, especially speculative investments like the stock market and stuff. I would be kind of cautious because there can be losses here. And it's a time to really go deep and heal issues revolving around your heart space, and being more open and practicing a lot more self-love, being nicer to yourselves. I think that's going to be really important. And I would really encourage you guys to consider working either with a therapist or a hypnotherapist, because Mars rules your 12th, and you're going to see trines to Neptune, and you're going to see trines to like Saturn. So it might be worth making the investment in some of those things. All right, so we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys have Mars retrograde back in the sign of Cancer in your opposite sign, the 7th house of relationships. My goodness. Okay, so put your thinking cap on, Capricorn. Who or what came back, or who or what changed relationship-wise since the fall? What's been going on since October, November? Have you been on and off with somebody? Did you call something off? Did somebody come back? Did you reconnect with someone? Are you changing direction in your existing relationship? You know, let's talk about it, because this is going to be important for you. Mars retrograde, obviously in your opposite sign, is going to be about partnerships, marriages, and public interactions. And with the Mars retrograde, you're working through emotional transparency in relationships. And this is a period that's highlighting issues in partnerships. It's about approaching them with a desire for healing rather than confrontation. I would be practicing active listening. Mars rules your home, okay? So it could be a property matter, a family matter, real estate, you know, going back and forth with a partner about how you navigate a home change, how you're moving, whether you're buying, selling, moving in, moving out. And I've seen a lot of Capricorn and Capricorn risings who have been going through some kind of conflict with either a roommate or a family member or a spouse about a home matter. So it's like, they want this, you want that. Or you're trying to sell something in a divorce separation, or you guys are trying to agree on where you're going to move or what you're going to buy. And Mars will be very strong in the 7th house, because you're going to see other people who are going to be kind of moody, and they're going to be kind of pressing your buttons a little bit, and they're going to be going back and forth with you. And it'll oppose your sun. So it's going to be about what you want to see change or what you want to get from them. And it'll oppose Mercury. So it's going to also be maybe about you know, legal proceedings for some. It could be about whether or not you guys aren't seeing eye to eye. So those opposition days with Mars in opposition to Mercury and the sun, you might want to just be more mindful that people are going to be a little bit more difficult. You got your work cut out for you with a full moon in Cancer coming up pretty soon. So that's going to start to kind of show you also what direction are things going in. But, you know, on the topic of Mars and the connection to your 4th house, Saturn's going to be there next year. Neptune's going to be there next year. Retrogrades and eclipses are happening. Many Capricorn and Capricorn risings are going to be committing to living in a new space, moving into their own space, buying their first home, moving in with a parent. Something serious is going to happen, and it's going to require the cooperation or the changes of relationships to better facilitate that change. Listen. Let other people react and act, and then with the Mars retrograde, you can let them return back to you, or return to negotiate, or return to heal things. Just give them the opportunity to smooth things over. Venus and Saturn are coming into conjunction, so that can lead to some really amazing opportunities to write letters, receive letters, communicate, connect, have meetings, you know, negotiate, and kind of come to terms with things, and it can be a lot more peaceful for you with your relationships. All right, so we've got Aquarius rising. You have Mars retrograde back in Cancer in your natal 6th house. Good news is that Mars actually does pretty well in the 6th house. It likes to have a to-do list. It likes to get back to the gym. It likes to focus on health and habits and healing. And it likes to be of service, okay? So with Mars retrograde in your 6th house, you're going to focus on health, your daily routines, your pets, your office space. And the key here to navigate between now and February, while Mars is retrograde in Cancer, is to pay attention to stress-related health issues, okay? Digestional issues, sleep issues, emotional issues, all that stuff can kind of come up. And I would like you to implement routines that support your emotional well-being. So think like meditation, yoga, but it could also taking baths, going in a sauna, going to the spa, getting a massage, you know, good emotional habits. Also, if you need to make some changes to your eating habits, if you need to cut something out of your diet, do anti-inflammatory stuff, be detoxing. If you're wanting to get back to the gym, go back to the doctor, this can be a good time to do that with the retrograde. Just avoid at work, you know, conflicts. Like there can be conflicts with people you work with, scheduling conflicts. Instead, focus on how your emotional state affects your productivity and make the necessary changes here. Now, what I think is great is you'll see Mars trine Saturn, your chart ruler, throughout this process, and sextile Uranus, your modern day ruler. So a lot of it's getting the home in order, dealing with home and family things. It could be, you know, caretaking of kids, the home. It could also be readjusting your schedule so you have more time for peace. So any which way you slice it, you see some good things that are going to be setting up for you. So make the necessary changes with your schedule, create those boundaries. Mars is connected to your 3rd house of communication and your 10th house of work. So a lot of this is like delegating tasks to other people, hiring the right people, bringing in the right staff, maybe you know, working with the right healthcare. Maybe it's even just as simple as bringing in people to help you with domestic stuff, or even working with a trainer, and then learning how to communicate and tell people what you can and cannot do, what you do or do not have the emotional capacity for, so you're not taking it on and then seeing that there could be some challenges with your health in the process. Okay. All right, and then we have our Pisces and Pisces risings. What's up, guys? Mars is retrograde in Cancer in your 5th house. It is back. It's going to be there until February, and you're reviewing some of the things that were kind of going on in October and November of 2024. Well, I mean, I like the Mars retrograde in your 5th house. I think this is one of the better places to have the retrograde because you have more time for 5th house things. Mars is also going to be in nice aspect to planets in Pisces. So it's going to dance with Venus. It's going to bring more opportunity for love and creativity. It's going to dance with Saturn, more commitments to your children, to happiness, to romance, to yourself, your self-love, and also your hobbies. And then it'll also try Neptune. So it's going to help you feel more divinely inspired, directed, feeling in alignment with what your purpose is. And I think it's going to be wildly creative, to be honest with you guys. So I think your guys' retrograde placement is my favorite. With that being said, the 5th house deals with creativity, romance, children. And with this Mars retrograde, it's not about starting new projects, guys. Okay. If you're wanting to start a project, maybe you're vision boarding, you're collecting things, you're researching, you're learning, you're feeling your way into it. You're waiting for that inspiration before you start new things, you know, pretty much from the end of February on. Right now, this is actually a time where you're revisiting old ones. So you need to go back and think about what projects have I not completed? What old paintings did I not finish painting? What old hobbies did I used to do that I haven't done in a while? What old home kind of projects do I need to go back that I haven't done in a while? Maybe you're reflecting on old romantic relationships. Old flames can come back. Maybe you're having a reunion with your kid. And this is about reconsidering and reevaluating, what does home mean to you emotionally? Who or what is home for you? And it might be a good time for decluttering or, you know, also reworking something about your home space. You could definitely do that. I think that in romance, I would be very patient because emotional tensions can surface. And with children, you know, ensure that you're responding to their emotional needs, not just your own. Now, Mars is connected to your your 2nd house of money and self-esteem and resources. So this is a lot of loving yourself and loving yourself some more, investing your time or your energy or your resources in things that you love. It might mean that you're spending a little bit of money on your children, or you're reevaluating costs for children, or maybe you're reevaluating costs for hobbies or creative projects. And it's also connected to the 9th house. So you might be saying, you know what? Maybe it is worth spending a little bit more money, you know, going on a trip or a vacation and bringing my kids, or maybe I am rethinking my budget when it comes to, you know, school and education for my children. Maybe you are thinking about investing in taking some art or dance classes or some kind of creative class, right? That's possible. And really it's about not acting. So you're reevaluating these things right now. You guys have to let me know, like, do people from the past come back? I think that that's a theme. You'll especially see that when the eclipse comes through Virgo in March in your 7th house, and then the ruler retrogrades in the 1st house. You might have actually reconnected with like a soulmate, a long lost lover, you know, reconnected with a childhood friend, reconnected with a child. Something like that can be coming up for some of you guys. And in the meantime, just get back to the things that you love doing, you know, and if you want to start new projects, you can do that from the time that Mars goes direct in February on. Some of the best stuff will actually be coming, I think, in April and in May. So think about how you can kind of reconnect with that inner romantic, that inner artist, that inner child. I hope that's helpful for you guys in navigating this next week. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see the nodes change signs. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave me a comment below and let me know how you're feeling with the vibes this week. I will be back. We're going to be making some other videos on Tuesday and Thursday. I plan on talking to you guys about Mercury moving into Capricorn. We're probably also going to start tapping into this up and coming new moon, which will be in Aquarius. It is like a chef's kiss of astrology, guys. It's really good. So I've got some new things that are kind of cooking for you. You can find me here on Friday. We're going to be doing live astrology readings. So make sure you're following my channel. Make sure you click the community tab. On Fridays, we'll be posting the live. There you can sign up in advance for a reading if you want to get an astrology reading and hear all about what's going on with this full moon in Cancer. And consider joining my memberships and supporting me as a full-time content creator. I appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. And until next time, we'll see all of you very soon. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all of these transits. And I look forward to discussing more with you on Tuesday. Until next time, take care.